Mr. Netanyahu on Sunday promised additional public meetings with Oman to follow up on his heavily publicized trip last week. Other Israeli officials also visited Gulf nations recently or are due to see them in the coming days in rare open settings, potentially building on the quiet ties between Gulf and Israeli intelligence agencies. Israel lacks diplomatic relations with most of its Arab neighbors, save for Egypt and Jordan. Israel tacitly shares some intelligence information with neighbors including Saudi Arabia and the UAE. In building relations with Oman, Mr. Netanyahu opens a potential backchannel to Tehran as Israel is trying to push Iran out of Syria with the war there drawing to a close. Oman has served as a go-between for warring players in the region, including for the US and Iran in 2013. In our long meeting we discussed in detail the challenges facing the Middle East. These were important talks, both for the state of Israel and very important talks for Israel's security. There will be more, Mr. Netanyahu said on Sunday ahead of a meeting of his cabinet. Oman's Sultan Qaboos bin Said also can connect Mr. Netanyahu to other regional leaders who may not yet be ready to openly meet the Israeli leader. Omani Foreign Minister Yusuf bin Alawi said his country could facilitate discussions and offer fresh ideas for the Palestinian peace process, though the country played only a limited role in the past, current and former officials involved in peace discussions said. Israel is a state that is present in this region and we all understand this, Mr. Alawi said on Saturday at a conference in Bahrain after the meeting. Perhaps the time has come for Israel to be treated in the same way as other countries. Oman received Mr. Netanyahu warmly and publicly, with state media showing photos and videos of the Israeli leader in Muscat and participating in a series of meetings. The meeting followed months of discussions between diplomats in both countries, Mr. Netanyahu said. Aside from the political benefits of the meeting within Israel, which are real, I see this as largely driven by Israel needing to find an effective way to communicate with the Iranians, especially for deterrent purposes, said Dennis Ross, who held senior national security positions in several presidential administrations and is now counselor at the Washington Institute. Israel still faces challenges in building open relationships with other Arab countries. At the same conference in Bahrain, Saudi Arabian Foreign Minister Adel Al-Jubeir reiterated Riyadh's position that ties with Israel can only be normalized through the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital and Israel's withdrawal from territory it occupied in 1967. Hamas on Sunday condemned Mr. Netanyahu's visit to Oman, calling it a stab in the back and a sign that Arab officials have given up on the Palestinian cause. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas hosted an envoy to Sultan Qaboos in Ramallah on Sunday for further consultations and pledged to strengthen cooperation with Oman. Mr. Abbas met with Sultan Qaboos in Muscat several days ahead of Mr. Netanyahu. Another heated exchange between Israel and Gaza over the weekend illustrated the challenges to peace with the Palestinians and the Arab world. Palestinian militant group Islamic Jihad fired more than 35 rockets at Israel on Friday and Saturday. In response, Israel struck nearly 100 Hamas and Islamic Jihad targets in Gaza. Israel said Islamic Jihad had been in contact with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps during the latest escalation and that Israel wouldn't refrain from expanding its response beyond Gaza. Israeli officials hope the Oman visit is a signal that public ties are possible without a signed Palestinian peace deal, even if those ties are somewhat limited. It comes amid a flurry of meetings between Israeli officials and Gulf states. Miri Regev, a member of Mr. Netanyahu's coalition and the Minister of Culture, visited Abu Dhabi over the weekend as part of an Israeli delegation to a judo tournament. Unlike last year, the Israeli athletes were allowed to participate under the Israeli flag and the Israeli national anthem Hatikva played there Sunday when one Israeli athlete was presented a gold medal. Ayub Kara, an Israeli government minister seen as close Mr. Netanyahu, will travel to Dubai on Monday for a communications conference, people familiar with the visit said. Israel Katz, Israel's intelligence and transportation minister, will visit Oman next week to attend an international transportation conference and present his plan for a train connecting Israel to the Gulf states, said Ari Shaili Kar, an advisor to Mr. Katz. Margarita Stankati in Manama, Bahrain, Abu Bakr Bashir in Gaza City and Dov Lieber in Tel Aviv contributed to this article. Write to Felicia Schwartz at felicia.schwartz@wsj.com.